Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 100. We made it all the way to 100. Wow, that's crazy. Rookie previews today. Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. We figured we'd just keep it all in Colorado. We do have our own free Discord, Patreon as well. And if you guys are interested in that, please just DM us on Twitter and or Blue Sky. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Holler and McSpanky are here tonight with me. How's it going, guys?
It's going, man. The Senior Bowl was this past week, which was really fun. I always get a kick out of seeing that and some of the measurements you get out of the guys before the combine too. And you can kind of see who some of the early draft risers are going to be. See some guys who disappointed. But yeah, no, and 100 episodes, that's crazy.
It is.
Greg, thank you in the chat.
Yeah,
feels like we haven't been doing it that long, but also like we've been doing it for forever. So
right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Super fun.
A little of both. Yeah.
Pretty cool. We were trying to think of something special for 100, but
Yeah.
we're not that special, so we're good.
Yeah, creative. I think is the
problem. Someone forgot, mainly me, and yeah, creativity is very much lacking. I should have asked my kids what I should do.
Yeah, but I just got off a mock draft with JT from JT with the Stew, and
how was the mock draft, Holler?
That was a lot of fun. Mock drafts are my favorite. Just every brain is different. Everybody likes their guys, and it's so cool seeing even before how early it is, like seeing how crazy different people think differently, where players are going, and it's awesome. Mock season is like very fun to me. Yeah,
it's the best.
Since we're going to talk about these two guys, where did Travis Hunter and Shedeur go in that?
Yeah, so Shedeur went 103 and Travis Hunter went 110. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, both the guys that on there, they like JT really likes Shedeur, which I don't blame him, and so I think what the majority outside of us three, like the majority of what people think is like, okay, let's get a quarterback. Like they don't really think too much into like, are they going to be good in the NFL? It's just let me get that quarterback. And JT let us know that, hey, we don't already like, just think of this as just like a mock draft that you don't really have a team already, and just kind of like just go off like so. But yeah, I mean, like we've talked about before, just if you are not comfortable with those quarterbacks, move out of that 102, 103 spot and get yourself some, move back and get some extra capital.
Someone will be comfortable with those quarterbacks. I mean, that's just the nature of it every year. Quarterbacks they rise up, and if one goes in the top 10 in the NFL draft or two they go in the top 3 or 4 picks. So is what it is. Unless you're Michael Penix.
Definitely.
That was a weird one-off.
Yeah.
Hey, at the end of the day, he that was probably a steal in a lot of rookie drafts. When obviously he's not the greatest fantasy quarterback.
I feel good about the ones that I took, because all the Michael Penix that I took was like 205s.
Exactly.
And I was just like, man, should he even be here right now? So I felt pretty good about them.
I have one, and it was on a orphan that I took, and it's like I got him at like 2.6 or 2.7, like you said, nice. And I feel fine about it,
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of these teams had Kirk Cousins too, so that's nice.
Yeah, like for me, like if we knew Kirk Cousins was going to be there before the rookie draft, and just like get yourself that, that comfortable like backup.
Yeah, it was nice, and maybe some rookie upside there with him as well. Let's get into this news here. So the Raiders hired Chip Kelly as their offensive coordinator. He was just at Ohio State. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers promoted Josh Grizzard to offensive coordinator. He was the Bucs passing game coordinator in 2024. He was with Miami as well as their wide receivers coach and offensive quality coach. The Texans hire Nick Caley as their offensive coordinator. He is a former Rams tight end coach and passing game coordinator. Myles Garrett requests a trade. Pretty bad in Cleveland. And Cooper Kupp is also on the trade block.
Yeah, so first, I think the Josh Grizzard news. I thought his name was Josh Glizzard for a while, and I was all ready to make a bunch of Glizzy jokes. And I was stoked, and then I realized it was Grizzard, and I was like, well, that kind of ruins that. But I think this is good for Baker. It's kind of a continuity hire.
Sure.
Everyone's kind of spoken very highly of him, which I mean makes sense. You're not gonna the players aren't gonna be like, "Oh, this dude blows," right after
He was like our
after the
seventh
OC.
choice, so
Right. So, but I think he'll be all right, and I think at this point, I mean, Baker's been running the same system for a couple of years there in Tampa. I think the offense is pretty much the same, right? I mean, there might be some different like tendencies that they like to do and different, down and distance things, but for the most part, the offense should be similar. I think this is good for the Bucks, and then Chip Kelly to the Raiders is a good one. I really like the hire. I think it's been perceived pretty well by most people. It's kind of a weird Raiders thing where they actually hired someone that I think fits. I think he's a good offensive mind. I don't think he's a good head coach.
Yep.
I do think he's a good offensive mind. Ohio State had a really good offense this past year. Back at UCLA when he was there, they ran a really good offense too.
Doesn't know how to put a team together, but yeah, he does a good job with the offense. Right? I'll give him that, but don't give him the reins to head coaching. You won't get something you like there. Like he if you look at like I only know of UCLA just because I live out here, and like he ran that program to the ground. He doesn't know how to recruit. He doesn't know. We can talk all day about that, but I think, in my opinion, he's a good offensive coordinator. We saw it. We saw it at Ohio State. Obviously, they have really, really good players, but the Raiders have a few good players, and they're going to get some more. So I think if he'll be underneath Pete Carroll, and I think that's going to be good. He's a good play caller, right? I think it's going to be a good fit there. And then the Grizzard Wizard, I think that's going to be a nice a nice fit for Baker. Somebody that he kind of knows already. He was the past game coordinator. So I think that should be nice. I know there's been a lot of up and down in our Discord with Baker, but I personally think he's going to continue to be a solid fantasy asset. And then I actually really like the Nick Caley hire for the Texans. Good offensive mind. I know he was like just the tight end coach or whatever, but if you get to learn underneath Sean McVay, like that's going to be awesome. So I think that's going to be a good hire for the Texans. It should be good for CJ Stroud, and I think they'll probably bring in, I think Stephon Diggs is out of the, going to be out of there, and then they're going to probably get themselves another wide receiver. So yeah, I like that. And then tough on the heart with Cooper Kupp. I thought, they could figure out how to, work on a contract renegotiation, just have them kind of right out on the sunset. But I guess it's, that's what happens with the Rams. But yeah, it's going to be sad, but I will be, watching Cooper Kupp wherever he goes. He's a Ram for life. So,
Well, he's in your heart. He will be.
Yeah,
in my heart, he's gonna retire a Ram. He'll come back and sign the one-day deal.
Yeah, I'm sure he will.
Totally.
I think with Kupp is interesting. So he's 32 years old, but he's owed $29 million and $27 million the next 2 years against the cap. I think the Rams even came out and said like they're willing to eat a good chunk of that cap.
They're gonna have to
try to trade him, and I don't know what kind of draft capital you're going to get in return for him just because he is older. And the last 3 years, he's played 9 games, 12 games, 12 games. So it's not like he's been a picture of health. He's getting older. Right. And the last 2 years, frankly, when he was on the field, he wasn't it wasn't, peak Cooper Kupp, right? It clearly is the Puka Nacua show out in L.A. I think Kupp's best days are behind him. I feel like he just needs to go to Tennessee and fulfill his destiny, Randy Moss and Andre Johnson and all those guys who went up there to die. So.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Are you buying Cooper Kupp at all? Like that's probably a better conversation to have.
Nope.
Like he's pretty cheap, I feel like, but I think you could probably get him for like a mid, maybe even a late 2. But it's like even then, I don't think I want to take the dice roll on that. Like I don't.
Yeah. So for me, I'm just gonna hold him. Right. You're gonna probably only get a second or third for him, and it's gonna probably be late because it's gonna be a contending team that they feel like, okay, I can put him in my flex spot. You're not gonna feel good about him on one of your 3 spots in the wide receiver. But yeah, I mean, looking it up, there's a bunch of logical spots for him. I think Washington would be a nice spot for him. I think there's been talks about Los Angeles would be the Chargers would be a nice spot for him. Baltimore would be a nice spot for him. So yeah, I mean, I just think it will depend on where he goes, and there might be a nice sell window if he goes to, like, say, Washington or the Bengals or the Chargers or somebody that has a good quarterback. Then I think people will kind of try to buy. But for me, yeah, like you said, his best days are behind him. He had one good game last year, kind of like when he had like 20 targets and he caught, I think, 10 or 11 of them against the Lions. When Puka was out. So I just think we're not going to see much of that. So I don't. I think for me, if I have him, I'll just hold. If there's some hype once he gets like traded, maybe I'll try to sell. But I think for me, I'll just hold and use him as a flex spot when needed.
Yeah, I don't really have much interest into buying into Cooper Cup.
Yeah.
I could see maybe if a nice landing spot happens, maybe piques the interest a little bit on a pretty strong contender. But like I got to know that I'm a shoo-in, almost to get to those finals at that point in time.
Yeah, 100%.
He's dying on the roster.
100%.
Should we get into the blind Spanky's blind player resume? Whoa.
Let's do it.
I knew I just thought it was going to be Dak and Baker, just all the talk in our Discord, but I was so disappointed when it was not.
Who's to say ahead. I didn't throw a curveball. All right, so I got two quarterbacks here. I got player A. He played in 17 games last year, threw 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 220 passing yards a game, 25 rush yards a game, 4 rushing touchdowns, which brings you to just shy of 19 fantasy points per game. And then we got ourselves player B. 16 games played, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 245 passing yards a game, 19 rush yards a game, 2 rushing touchdowns on the season, 18.3 fantasy points per game. So basically, player A threw more touchdowns, 1 more interception. Player B threw for a little bit more yardage, but essentially it almost evened out in terms of points per game. Just based on those two numbers alone, who would you like? And then let me tell you their ages and then I'll get your answer again.
Okay. Let me look here again. Oh,
these are always fun.
I mean,
I might take the more rushing yards and rushing touchdowns.
Okay. So player A.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with player B, just because I think Wes says it good here. He's taking the yardage. Touchdowns are all volatile, which I agree. Right?
Sure. It's like 20 yards.
It's only 20 yards. Yeah, which is what, like a point maybe in fantasy. But I don't think the rushing yards is far enough in a gap. Maybe that player B could end up getting that many yardage. You never know. Once I know who it is, I might be able to say more on that. But yeah, I think I'll take. Everything, it's so close that I feel like you just flip a coin and pick one. The name is probably going to say it all.
I love that. Okay, so player A is 24 years old. Player B is 29. Does that change your opinion at all?
With quarterbacks, not as much. Okay. Because we've seen, many quarterbacks, like the age cliff is younger. I'll take C. So I don't know. I mean, it's nicer to have a younger player. Just you would think they're gonna be better longer, but you never know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sticking with B.
Okay. Player B is going almost 2 full rounds ahead of player A in startups. Does that change your mind at
all? Yes, because a lot of times I like to wait a little bit on my quarterbacks. But
okay. Do you have any guesses on who is who?
So which one was the younger one? Player A might be Bryce Young.
It is not Bryce Young, but that would be right up my alley for some Panthers propaganda. It's a different guy, though. You're on the right track. It's a different guy that I've been.
CJ Stroud?
It's not CJ Stroud. Player A is. Well, Ron, do you have any guesses before I reveal?
I want to guess Purdy, but I don't know how old Purdy is.
It's not Brock Purdy. So player A is none other than my boy from the University of Oregon.
Oh,
He's now a
Bo
Denver
Nix,
Bronco.
yeah.
Bo
Oh,
Nix.
he made me pick Bo Nix.
And then player B, and you're gonna laugh when you say this, but it's Patrick Mahomes, quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wow.
So everyone heard it. Ron took Bo Nix over Patrick Mahomes. So I just want everyone to know that.
Wow. Now that I know the
Lord.
names, give me Bo Nix.
Fantastic.
I'll still
That's the
take
expected
Mahomes.
response. No, but so this is one of those things that's where like obviously Mahomes, right, is the better quarterback, but in terms of fantasy, like Bo Nix was as a rookie, and part of that he started off the year pretty slow too. Like if you guys remember back in that first month of the season, we were making jokes about like no rookie quarterbacks are throwing any touchdown passes, like including Jaden Daniels, right? They were running them in, but they weren't throwing any. And then Bo Nix kind of turned the corner kind of later in the season and started playing a lot better. Obviously, Mahomes is the better like real life quarterback. That's not even a debate. It's just in terms of fantasy though, and especially if you get a 2-round discount, is a Mahomes to Bo Nix. I would assume you could get a pretty significant plus if you're just swapping off those two guys. It's just it was kind of interesting how close the statistics were for me, and I was kind of putting this together. Because if you hear two people talking about the two quarterbacks, you're going to be like, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes probably outproduced them. No question. No doubt about it. Pretty significantly. But
well, I think a lot of people also, if you watch now how Patrick Mahomes is playing, I'm sure it's coming a little bit with age and kind of how their team is made up. He just does what he needs to do to win the game. That's all he cares about. And so I think it comes with being younger and being a rookie. You want to show out and you're going to probably put up more yardage. And also, I'm surprised by the interceptions, in my opinion, like that. I was surprised how close they are. Cause I thought if you look at Bo Nix playing, you're like, crap, he probably had a ton of interceptions. But it really
probably could have had more than he actually got.
Exactly. But I've talked about it before on the pod here. Like I'm like, if I can get Patrick Mahomes at the end of the first round, and if in a startup, I'll probably go that route. But other than that, I'm not taking him early anymore. Like last year, in the off season when we were doing startups, he was surefire 101 or 102, right? And I think a lot of people have kind of soured a little bit on that. There's some others that are still going to take him top 5, but for me, there's so many other fantasy upside players that are going to give you those high end weeks. And for me, Patrick Mahomes is kind of be, what he is. Win you the NFL game, but maybe not win you your fantasy game.
Yeah, I don't think he's winning you as many. Just the way their offense, their team is built. It's a good defense. They run the ball really well. I don't think he's going to win you as many fantasy matchups as he wants to. Like if you think back to what was probably 3 years ago now, when he was kind of one of the MVPs of the league, like he was tearing it up, right? And his first year, his first couple of years when he had Tyreek Hill, there was a lot of downfield stuff. NFL defense is kind of adjusted to how they play, and so now they play a lot of dink and dunk with a too high safety look, and it is what it is. But
I mean, it could change, like they get a running back, they get another wide receiver that can, stretch the field like Tyreek Hill, and he could bounce right back to being that same fantasy guy. So you never know. I think Patrick Mahomes is such a good player that if you get him in the end of the first round, that's a good bargain.
Yeah, I'm obviously not advocating taking Patrick Mahomes over Bo Nix. I just was saying it's a lot closer than you might realize, and it might be worth exploring a tier down if you can get a decent plus on the return of that.
Yep,
sure. I'll leave that one for you guys. You guys love.
Hey, you're the one that picked Bo Nix over Mahomes.
Yeah, you did.
Look, I like Bo Nix now. I like Bo Nix now. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, on the mock, I got Loveland at 112, and we were all talking about if he would go to the Broncos. Like, I think that would be a nice spot for Loveland, and I also think it'd be really nice for Bo Nix. So, but they need running back and tight end. They need a bunch there, but
whatever offensive piece shows up there, I'm gonna be pretty interested in.
Yeah,
I think they're almost not like guaranteed to go with an offensive player, but I would assume they are, just based on, I think Sean Payton was doing an interview today, and he kind of was like, yeah, I think we need that extra player,
Yeah.
whether it's, a running back, tight end, that kind of a guy who can kind of do it all. So I would look to, if Loveland's there or if Tyler Warren's there at 20, I think that's probably going to be the pick.
Yeah,
if Jinty somehow
100%.
falls there, that's a smash, and they're probably going to run the card into the podium. So we'll
I
see.
would.
I would too.
Yeah, buddy. Okay, you guys want to get into Shedeur?
Yeesh.
All right, Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado, 6'1", 198 pounds. Those are spring measurements in Colorado.
Yeah, he's
the son of Deion Sanders, if no one knew.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's interesting. Is that why
my
he
101 now?
from Jackson State to Colorado? And okay.
Yeah.
Why Deion Sanders is so invested in his NFL future? That's surprising.
Yeah, he's really like putting his arm around him and really taking him to the side and doing some fatherly things for him. It's been wild. It's been wild to watch. Good job, Deion.
For sure.
So what? Yeah, give us these numbers, McSpanky.
Yeah, so first, look at the height weight. That was the Colorado spring measurements. They listed eventually during the season at 6'2", 215. I think he's probably between that. I think he's probably 6'1", probably about 205 maybe. He's not very big, but we can get into that too. So his fantasy effect score was about 73%, which is quite a lot lower than like what most first round players get. His touchdown ratio is 7.33, which is pretty good. Passing yards a game was like 311, which was awesome, but we'll kind of touch on that in a second. It's kind of inflated against some bad competition he played. Yards per attempt 7.8, which is pretty good. Adjusted completion percentage 79.9. That's the one I wanted to touch on. That's top 5 in the nation. That's crazy good. Like his accuracy is fantastic.
Deep ball accuracy is really good.
Yes. Passer rating 111, really good. Really, for quarterbacks, you want to see them over 100 pretty consistently for their career. That's usually kind of a number I look for. Passer rating under pressure was 92.8. That was 7th in the nation this past year. And then deep ball adjusted completion percentage 49.3%, which is 19th nationally. It sounds lower than it is, but like he's basically completing 50% of his passes 20 yards downfield is pretty good, considering really is Travis Hunter, and I mean the other receivers they had there weren't like overly great. The one thing I did want to touch on is his 2 best games this year were against Colorado State and Oklahoma State, which were the 73rd and 126 out of 134 teams in college football last year in total defense. So he really lit up some bad teams against like the better teams he played against. So he played about 6 or 7 games against top 40 defenses the last 2 years. His yards per game there went down to about 260. His touchdown ratio, it went from like 1.7 to interception, went to like 0.57. So like he was throwing quite a bit less touchdowns a game there. His passer rating dipped below 100 down to 95. And then he's not like a great runner. The rushing yards in college football is a little weird though too. So like he averaged like 26 rushing yards a game against those teams, but that counts. Sack yardage counts against your rushing total in college. And so those numbers are a little weird, but just something to call out there. Like he lit up some bad teams and then he kind of struggled. Like the BYU game in the bowl, which he played, and he wore his Giants cleats or whatever. Like he didn't really look all that good. He had 200 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. The Utah game this year, he actually did do pretty good. He went over 300 yards. The Nebraska game earlier this year, he struggled too. The whole team did. I talked a lot.
Before we move on real quick, thank you. Give our listeners a little bit what the fantasy effect score is. So Shedeur Sanders 72.9. That doesn't sound very good at all. But give us a little bit what that score is.
Generally speaking, so their prospect score, it factors in things like their quarterback rating, their yards per game, kind of their touchdown rate, how many turnover worthy plays they have, how they do against pressure, their deep ball accuracy, whether they can run the ball or not, how they do against how they pass when there is no pressure in their face, how they do against the blitz, and just kind of different categories like that. And then it's all kind of weighted based on how it correlates to play in the NFL. Generally speaking, so over the last 5 years here, there have been 14 quarterbacks drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. 11 of those 14 have scored above a 90% in this model. The only 3 that haven't were Bryce Young, Michael Penix, and Anthony Richardson. Richardson, we knew was a project. Bryce Young and Michael Penix are they're still kind of TBD on whether or not they're good. I happen to like Bryce Young, but like there's a lot to Shedeur Sanders' game where that kind of grading is more indicative of like a day 2 guy, maybe like a top 50 pick as opposed to a top 10 pick. Where he's kind of benefiting is this quarterback class isn't overly like flush with talent, but there's still a lot of quarterback needy teams. Whereas like if he was in last year's quarterback class, I would almost imagine he'd be more of like a mid round 2 guy as opposed to a top 10 quarterback. But it is what it is. He's going to get drafted, which is fine. He's going to be a top 10 pick more than likely.
And he'll probably see the field. I was looking at some things, and I pulled up some like CBS Sports had some other stats that they had, like the player efficiency rating, under pressure rate, and a couple things that I thought were crazy were like we already knew this, but his offensive line was absolutely terrible. He had the tied for the 3rd most sacks at 40, and then last year was 49. His sack percentage was 28th highest at 7.7%. And then for me, I thought this was kind of surprising because when I was watching him, I saw that like a lot of times he held the ball a little bit too long. But his average time to throw was 2.83 seconds this year, which is 15th highest, right? So that doesn't sound very good. Like as you can see, like that you're holding the ball a little bit longer than you should. And so, but for me, what I really liked, like if you just look at it as a whole, is he got better from last year to this year, 2023 to 2024, which is a good sign, right? We don't want to see any regression there. His completion percentage was really, really good this year, had more passing yards, and so I just think, and he had 10 more passing touchdowns this year than last year. And for me, they didn't really bring in any more better wide receiver talent, right? And so it was good to see that. Obviously, they were playing some, not as good teams. I think the kind of Big 12 is a little bit like equivalent to the Pac-12 in terms of defense, but for me, from what I was watching, I just think he does move around pretty well in the pocket. I was watching one video from Kurt Benkirk, and I thought it was really funny because he compared him to like CJ Stroud, obviously not as good as CJ Stroud, but he was able to move in the pocket well. And so I do like the comp that you had, Spanky, a Jordan Love, like a Jordan Love light, so, but I'm 100% with you guys. Like if I've said it before, I'm not going to take these quarterbacks unless I can get them in the end of the first round, which I'm not going to be able to because they're going in the like first 10 picks in the NFL draft. So for me, there's so many question marks, and I just don't think they're as good of a prospect as our quarterbacks last year. And then also the quarterbacks next year. Obviously the ones next year need to develop, and we'll see. But I just think those quarterbacks coming out next year are better complete quarterbacks than both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Sure.
Yeah, so you touched on it, like on the sacks and holds the ball too long. That was actually one of the cons I had on him, was he takes a lot of sacks that are avoidable. Yes, his offensive line wasn't great, but a lot of that too was on him, right? He's also, I think I heard Kyle Krabs of the Draft Dudes describe him this way, and I kind of like it. He thinks he's more athletic than he is. When he tries to run the ball, it's like he doesn't quite have the athletic prowess that he might think, so he can't quite get out of some of these situations he thinks he can. He's decent, so I have a below average athleticism there, and he is a little bit smaller too. Height wise, he's fine at about 6'1", but his frame's a little light. I think he can kind of build into that a little bit to kind of take some of these hits. Granted, the NFL is changing some with how you kind of can get hit. I know people harp to death on Jaden Daniels last year, and he's, Shedeur is built bigger than he is, so we'll kind of see. Some of the pros, though, I think I kind of crapped on him a lot here, but some of the things he does really well. He's got a great release. Like, he throws the ball super clean. His accuracy is fantastic at all levels of the field. He puts the ball where it needs to go to maximize receivers to be able to catch it and run. And I think he understands defenses and kind of what they're trying to do to him in the offense really well. Some of that I think he tries to get away with more than he should. And in the comp I had for Jordan Love, I think Jordan Love has a much better like arm talent. I think he's got a more powerful arm, but I think just kind of how he plays the game is similar to that too. And I saw another comp that I liked out there too. Someone comped him to Andy Dalton, which I think is also fair. Andy Dalton, by the way, was a second round pick too, which I think is more where he should go. But you know, the NFL does things because they're desperate, so we'll see. But,
I think for me, I have Shedeur as my like number one quarterback. I just think
you have him ahead of Ward.
I do. It's super close, and I think at the end of the day, I don't care if Ward goes 101 and Shedeur goes like 3, 4, 5, or 6. I will feel more comfortable with Shedeur than I do Cam Ward. There's too much of a hero ball to Cam Ward for me, and I think Shedeur does a little better job of. I think he's a little too confident in himself, but I do think that confidence does, help him, right? I think he can take over a team and help that team get better and help that team. Like Colorado came out of nowhere. Obviously, a ton of players came there, but I just think, and then they also had a ton of pressure. Obviously, we saw that kind of crumbled when they played against Nebraska. But there's games where he brought them back. There's games that he won on a Hail Mary. There's things about him that I think he can. He can do really well. But at the end of the day, I just think you've said it super well, Spanky. Like he's just super lucky to be in the 2025 draft.
Yeah, definitely. I generally, agree with everything you guys have said about him. He seems athletic enough. I think he's pretty on time with moving the offense as well too. When the ball needs to come out quick, comes out quick. If it's a deep throw, he'll extend it a little bit for you just by a few more seconds here. And, I think he can really stand in the pocket and he's not afraid to take a hit from somebody, and deliver the ball. I was thinking back to that Hail Mary, the overtime one that he won. Like he takes a shot on that one, and that was really nice. Honestly,
Baylor, right?
I can't remember who it was against.
I think it was Baylor. Yeah, I was watching that game and I was just like, it's easy to like root against Colorado just with all the hype and how Dion is and things like that. But it's also fun to watch a last second win. So. And I think it's tough, being Dion's son, and there's a lot of pressure. And I think overall he's done a good job with that pressure, and it's not going to stop being a top 10 NFL pick in the draft.
Yeah, and that's what I had for one of my cons was he kind of has a media circus that follows him around everywhere he goes. But like Spanky had said, he does seem, or Spanky and Hauer have said, he does seem to have handled it pretty well.
Yeah.
No matter what's kind of gone on, players have up and down games. You can't expect everybody to have their best game every single time they're out there. And more often than not, I think he's delivering on those performances. Whether or not the team wins or not is kind of a different story. And I think is a little bit more out of his hands because that defense was pretty bad too. I mean, everybody pretty much carved up Colorado all year long.
The defense was bad. The offensive line was outmatched in most games.
I mean,
good teams.
If you like look into that whole team, like basically it's just Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. That's about it. They have a couple other solid players, but really it's basically just those two guys.
Yeah, definitely. I like I said, I have him over Cam Ward, and the reason I have him over Cam Ward is I think Shedeur can handle pressure. I don't think Cam Ward can handle pressure, and I just think that's going to be the deciding factor between these two. If you can stand in there and make the throws, and I don't know that Cam is willing to stand in there and make the throws,
and
that's
And I also think one big thing, when I was watching, I watched a couple of different games the last couple of days, and I just think Shedeur's ball, like he throws a much better ball. Yeah. He puts the ball in
very accurate
to the wide receiver, accurate, and it's just kind of like what I talked the opposite of Cam Ward. It's just like the ball, you're not exactly sure where the ball is going to go. And I think a lot of the wide receivers in Miami made Cam Ward look a little better than he is. So
I think too, Cam Ward benefited from that offensive system in Miami. Was very college friendly. There's a lot of like space to throw to, whereas I think Sanders can throw like fit balls in tighter windows with his ball placement and kind of throw guys open, as opposed to just like, hey, this is I know this is where the ball's supposed to go, and there's going to be a guy open here, which I think is kind of what Cam Ward did. I think Cam Ward's he's faster. I think he's a better
he's faster, bigger,
got better arm
stronger,
talent.
better arm, all that stuff. But like, I mean, we saw it with Bo Nix. I mean, Bo Nix does not have the strongest arm. He's not the fastest guy out on the field. It's just operating.
Now he's better than Mahomes.
Okay, let's calm down.
It's going to be a funny sight. I agree 100% because
either way, it's going to be a good time. If he's bad, it's going to be awesome. If he's great, it's going to be awesome because it's just going to be so much hate all the time.
I will say the thing with Sanders is that like he's already played behind a crappy offensive line. So if he goes somewhere where they don't have a good O-line, it's like it's not anything different than what he's been doing. Right. So he kind of knows how to handle it a little bit, which is nice. Especially because he might end up in Vegas. Is kind of what I've seen more and more is that he's kind of dropping out of the top 3 and going he's available at 6. And I think
him and
Tom I don't think he makes it past 6. I don't think either of the 2 quarterbacks do.
Agreed.
They got to make it past the Giants and the Raiders, and then the Browns probably need one too. The Titans could probably take one at 1. So
I do think I do think the Browns will probably go with Carter if they do end up trading Myles Garrett. So lots to look for there, but I could see them going with quarterback. They're not the greatest, smartest organization, as we all know. So
what?
You never know what's going to
happen. Add him to the list. Add him to the jersey.
Yeah.
So where I've kind of seen in mocks, Shedeur Sanders gone anywhere, I think as high as like 102 and as low as like, I think I took him at 111 the other day in a mock that we did. So like, where do you guys see him going and where do you feel comfortable taking him? I think if he goes in the top 6, which I think he will, I think he's probably pushing more towards like 102, 103, 104. Do you feel comfortable taking him that high in Superflex rookie drafts, or because I don't, I have him. He's the 110. He's in the 107 to 111 range, which I think is kind of where I feel good about taking him. But I don't think if he goes top 6, I don't think he's making it that far down. So I probably won't end up with any. Is that kind of where you guys are at too?
I'm in lockstep with you there. Yeah, I have Shedeur and Cam Ward back to back at 9 and 10. Obviously, I probably will bump them up a little bit if they do end up going to in the top 10 at say 101 and 106. But for me, I will not take. Like, I will explore trading before I grab one of those guys. And if I end up having to go and make my pick at 103, 104, or 102, I'll take anywhere from Tet to Henderson to Hampton to Burden. And if I have, I know most of my leagues are 1.0 premiums for tight ends, and Warren lands on a nice spot. I'll have no problem taking Tyler Warren as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I really can see him landing anywhere from the 103 all the way to the 112. Like I think
totally
see him go all over the place, and I think it's going to be the same with Cam Ward. Just the nature of this class, and people pushing quarterbacks up the board because they may or may not need a quarterback. We see NFL teams do it. We see fantasy teams do it. If I have a hole, I'm just going to take, the best player at that position. And there might be just better players, out there on the board. So we'll see what happens. But I hope a few fall to me late in some drafts. I won't be too upset.
I think he's. I mean, quarterbacks are just kind of risky in general, right? Especially in this one where it isn't perceived as a strong QB class to begin with. Is there a landing spot for him that makes you feel better about taking him, whether it's the Giants or maybe the Raiders with Chip Kelly now? Is there?
Yeah, I was gonna say I like the if you were to land with the Raiders because I like Pete Carroll, I like Chip Kelly. I think there's a good foundation there, and I think it would be
Sure.
good for Sanders, especially because I don't think, I don't think Pete Carroll will like allow the big circus that goes on with Shedeur sometimes, right? I think he will be able to corral that a little bit, and I think that would be good for him. So I think that's a really nice spot for him. But like I said, I'm gonna stick to my guns, and I don't think I'm gonna let any landing spot really sway me and take him when he's probably going to end up going anywhere from 2, 3, 4 of a rookie draft.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would be like, I think the Raiders. I agree with Holler, would be the best spots, and it's really for the reasons you put. I mean, he gets Pete Carroll, he gets Chip Kelly, he's got Tom Brady there. He talks with Tom
Yeah.
Brady like I don't know how often, every so often or whatever, but they're familiar with each other.
Breakfast
Obviously,
buddies.
yeah, breakfast. If they're having
Yeah.
breakfast together, let's just bump them
It's
all the way
over.
up the
Just-
board at
yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
If they start eating breakfast together, it's over. But no, I just think that's going to be the best support system. The
Yeah.
Giants just basically like crushed Daniel Jones for 4 years while asking him to play for them, and
I do
the
understand, like,
Titans have Ridley, and that's it. And the Browns have, Deshaun waiting in the wings, maybe. I don't know. He probably tore his Achilles again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and
who
I
the
do
hell knows?
think there's like some worry. It's Las Vegas, New York, like they're both big cities, and so. But I think the coaching staff and the surrounding in Vegas is a better spot for Shedeur than New York, right? So if he does land on, with the Giants, I just think part of that is, I mean, obviously there's Malik Neighbors there, but the Raiders have Brock Bowers, right? So there's also pluses on both sides there. So I just think at the end of the day that the surrounding whole pieces in Las Vegas are better than New York.
I do.
Yeah, I think his circus fits in better in Las Vegas too. You know what I mean?
There's a hotel geared around at Circus,
Right.
Circus, yeah.
I kind of feel like Shedeur Sanders is a better bet to like stick in the NFL longer, but I feel like Cam Ward might be the
Higher
one that's
upside.
more, the higher
Yeah.
upside, and like he's
Yeah.
going to be the one that can like really change your fantasy team, but he also might be out of the league in 4 years.
Right, it might be in one. The reason you laid out is pretty much why I have Shedeur ahead of Cam Ward,
Yeah.
because I think he can stick a little
Sure.
longer, and if that value can just hold,
Yeah.
there'll still be people that are
Could-
fans of Shedeur, and
Yeah.
Mhm.
like we're talking about Cam Ward, I mean, he could go the way of Zach Wilson real quick.
Yep.
Oof,
Spot on.
Yeah,
that's rough.
yeah. Should we get into Travis Hunter?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, he is 107 on the big board, and he's a wide receiver from Colorado, 6'1", 185 pounds. McSpanky, you want to take us through these numbers here?
Yeah, so he scored. I scored him specifically just with his wide receiver numbers. So 99%. So that's a percentile. So essentially, the highest graded ones get 100, and then it goes down. So he's in the 99th percentile, which is real good if you're familiar with school scoring. That's an A plus. Yards per out run 2.42, which is awesome. We like to see above a 2, which he hits that. He was targeted on 24% of his routes he ran. He's done a little bit of everything. He can kind of play in the slot and out wide, 29% in the slot, 71 out wide. His contested target rate was down at 14%, which tells you he's 7-11 out there. He's always open. He, unlike Shedeur, he basically lit up every single good defense and every bad defense he played. He was him. I mean, there's a reason he won the Heisman this past year. The only thing that so the only issue I have with him is he going to play wide receiver, and how much is he going to play at wide receiver? I think realistically, I think he's a better corner than he's a better receiver. However, receivers make better money, and I think he wants to play both sides of the ball. I just don't know if an NFL team is going to let him, or how long are they going to let him and then decide like, hey, this isn't working out. you need to pick one side or the other if he starts to focus only on defense. And then it's like, well, now I just wasted, the 107 on this guy. And part of the concern is like he's missed time the last 2 years at Colorado playing both sides of the ball. And he's a little bit
So many
slimmer
snaps.
frame, like so many snaps. The only snaps he really takes off are special teams. He's 6'1", 185. He's not like huge, right? So taking hits and giving hits that often in the NFL adds up a lot faster. It's a lot of mileage he's got on him. Can he last an entire season playing both sides of the ball like that? I don't know if he can.
Yep. Yeah, I think I think that's the only con, right? He is easily the best player in this draft, easily in my opinion.
Sure.
I think if Tennessee had more, belief in Will Levis, I think they would probably take Travis Hunter 101 pretty easily. And for me, if we hear anything like, oh, he's going to be moving towards wide receiver and be just a wide receiver, I would feel no problem with anybody if they go 102 after Genty, right? For me, he could be. I've heard a lot of people say that he could be like a Justin Jefferson light, right? Like he is a really, really good wide receiver, and he can play all over the field. He can catch the ball really, really well. So for me, he's just, he's a unicorn, and so I think it's just weighing like how much risk are you willing to take?
It's risky.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, because I personally don't think they're going to be like, okay, we're taking Travis Hunter, the wide receiver at 1-0, whatever, right? That's not how it's going to happen. They're going to wait. They're going to get him in camp. They're going to see how things are. He's not going to have to worry about the money until he's after his however many years, right? And so we're not going to know. So it's going to be 100% risky. And so I think in like IDP leagues, like Wes is saying, he's probably going to go 102, maybe 103, 101. Yeah. So, I just think for me, like it's super, super easy to root for the guy. He's a really, really good kid. So I just, for me, I'm with you. Like 107 is probably where I feel comfortable with. And I'm okay, losing out. Like I would rather take anywhere from Tet and Hampton and Burden and Henderson and Tyler Warren, and maybe some days Ibuka, so that maybe gives it to 108 for Hunter. But if I get any like inclination after the draft that okay, maybe we're gonna go with wide receiver, he'll shoot up a little bit. But there still is that risk, right? So everybody knowing that if you're taking him, we're not gonna know until. I'm super old. Yeah,
I know. I love it. It's like when you're growing up, it's like you're looking up and college football players are older than you. Then you're the same age. Then you're the same age as the BYU players, and then it's just like you're older than everyone else.
Yeah, and it's like, no, he's super super fun to root for, man. Like I was pretty stoked to see him win the Heisman. There was a lot of like, should he not? I think it was cool, and so
definitely deserved that.
Totally.
Heisman.
So,
for sure.
I have no like if you're willing to take the risk on, to just take him wherever you want. If you believe in him, because he's a really good player on both sides of the ball, and I do believe people are going to play him. Like he's the latest he's talked about it is he wants to play on both sides of the ball.
I know he does. I just and I feel like too on draft day, I would almost imagine they're going to announce him as a defensive back, not a wide receiver. And then the way the franchise tag works and how like for like a 5th-year option, it's based on percentage of snaps that they play. And so it's whatever you play most at. So man, I don't know, but he might get a bump on things too because he plays both sides of the ball. If I knew he was playing wide receiver like 100%, he's my 102 really easily because I think he's the best like wide receiver in the class. If I knew he was playing 100% of the snaps there, I don't think he's going to. I think, and this is where it's hard. So I have him in that 107 and 111 range. Like that's where I have him. And it's easy to rank him there. When I actually have like my real teams on the line, I'm like, hey, I need this guy. there's a decent chance I might say, well, I'm going to take Ibuka here instead because I know he's going to play all of the snaps at wide receiver. I might take a Quinshon Judkins because I know he's going to play running back. If Matthew Golden goes in the first round, I might take him over him too because it's like, well, I know what I'm getting here. My risk appetite is shrinking. But you could get – I've seen Travis Hunter fall into like the mid-second in certain mock drafts.
Oh, smash.
Which like at that point is like, well, I mean, hell, we'll take the dice roll here. Like, it's a second-round pick.
Into my
like,
Michael Penix choices last year.
Exactly. And then it's like, if he doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But man, he's so hard. And it's hard too because, like, we're not going to know, right? Like,
yep.
It sucks because he's super explosive, man, and like he is so fun to watch. Yeah, and it's just highlight after highlight. Like every single game, he's putting up some other, highlight on there, whether it's on the offensive side or the defensive side of the ball. I think he's super exciting to watch. And yeah, it kind of makes me disappointed for the fantasy aspect of it, but I think he'll still be a fun NFL player to watch.
Yeah.
Where do we think he ends up? I don't think he makes it out of the top 10. I would
no way.
More of a top 5
3.
guy.
Yeah.
And when that's the thing, it's like I think he's either going to Tennessee or Cleveland, right? Like I think realistically, right? And it's just
I personally don't think he will get past the Giants. Right? Because I think we could see the Giants going the way
of
quarterback. No, but we can see them,
That's
going and
I bet he could do it.
Getting one of the mediocre free agents or whatever. So,
sure.
But yeah, Wes, I agree 100%. We'll have more information after the draft, but I still don't think at the end of the day, like after the draft, after he gets drafted, we still won't know until week 1, in my opinion. Because there's no way they're going to want to let everybody know, okay, he's going to play wide receiver. Or, okay, he's going to do 60%, 40% or whatever it is.
Training camp will be telling to see how many reps he's getting on each side of the ball. And I think it's a big enough story that reporters are going to check on that. And we'll see then more so than we will, I don't think a coach is going to be like, yeah, we're going to play him, 20 snaps a game on offense and however many on defense. Like they're just not going to say that, but I think that'll be telling us during training camp. Unfortunately, most rookie drafts in Dynasty happen,
long before then
in April, right? So you're going to have to kind of guess there, and it's just a matter of what do you do? Do you want to roll the dice? Do you want to take Travis Hunter and hope for the best, and may end up with nothing? So.
Yeah, I think I think he's probably not going to get out of the first round for the majority of rookie drafts because I think somebody's going to be like, oh, he's still there at 109 or 110 and be like, oh, shit, I'll take it.
Right. Like and so like Wes brings up good questions like, what are the chances of this talent convinces coaches they need him on offense? I can tell you right now in Tennessee, he's their second. He might be better than Calvin Ridley, and he's probably their best wide receiver, offensive weapon on that team. Same with Cleveland.
Yeah.
The Giants, Neighbors is really good, so not him. But the Patriots, he's the best offensive player they have by far. Yep. Jacksonville, I think Brian Thomas Jr. is probably a better receiver, but at least. And then Vegas, Brock Bowers. But other than that,
there's a lot of teams in the top 10 that he would be their best.
He immediately is their best, offensive guy. So I think it's for that. I think it's hard. I think it's hard to keep him off the field. It's like if he can do it, right? Like even if it's only like a subset of plays, like he's not playing. Maybe he's only playing like 25% of the offensive snaps. He's so explosive. Like he could legit make it worth it playing that little amount.
So I just pulled up Lance Zierlein mock draft 2 days ago. He was mocked
to the NFL Network guy, right?
Yeah, to the Giants at 3. CBS Sports mock 1 day ago. He was 106 to the Raiders. I don't see him getting out of the top 10. All right, I don't see him getting out of the top 6, right? Like, because if he's there, I would be like, I'm pretty pretty sure that he would land in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if both quarterbacks are gone when Vegas picks, there's a decent chance they would take Hunter if he's there.
Yeah, 100%. I'm gonna pull up one more.
And they'll figure it
NBC
out.
Sports.
When they need him.
Mm-hmm.
NBC Sports Boston has him going to New England from a day ago. So yeah, he's all over the place. But it's I don't think he's getting out of the like 106. I think that's where the cap is.
Yeah,
Sure.
I agree. He's definitely going to be up there. I think I saw it was kind of interesting trying to figure out a comp for him because he really is like one of one, right? But body type, I think he's similar to like a Garrett Wilson in terms of like how they're built. I think he's more explosive than Garrett Wilson is, but I think that's a similar body type and body control, that kind of thing. Both great route runners, have great hands. I think Hunter's a better athlete, but I think that's
love this.
Kind of what you're looking at.
They really move similarly.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the quarterback side, he's like a Patrick Surtain. I don't know why. Draft
okay.
NFL.
Yeah, I saw Champ Bailey get thrown around a lot too, which is crazy because Champ Bailey.
Yeah, so that's just how good of a player he is. Like he is a top cornerback and a top wide receiver.
He's gonna be fun to watch.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him. I really like that Garrett Wilson comp because I was sitting here trying to like think of one all day. Garrett Wilson was a big old basketball player in high school, and I think that there's been some videos that have circulated of Travis Hunter playing basketball, so kind of makes sense.
I can only imagine.
Dude, he's like flying all over the place. It's
crazy.
Nuts. Yeah, man. Just a very special athlete for sure.
I know his like frame is a little bit smaller when you watch him play. It looks a little bit up on like a smaller side, but like I would not complain.
I would
about
never
that.
guess it.
Yeah, right. He plays super fast. He plays big.
You wouldn't think, man, he's small.
He can shut down big wide receivers. Like he's a shutdown corner and he's a top wide receiver. It's crazy. He's one on one for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, where Ron would you feel comfortable taking him? Like say he lands on any of 101 to 106, where would you feel comfortable?
Oh geez. I'm right there with you guys. I'm gonna lump them in with those quarterbacks just because that kind of feels like the question mark spot that we're getting to in the draft. Like everybody else feels like we have, sure things here. I agreed a lot with what Spanky said with risk aversion kind of, but also, if I got a super bummy roster, I might just try to hit one out of the park.
Sure.
Exactly. And just see if I can't find something here. Not that these other guys couldn't, but just for the fun of it, to be able to be a little bit more invested in Travis Hunter, while he's in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think there's going to be sell opportunities with Travis Hunter too. Like, I think he's too good to not get any opportunity at wide receiver, even if he's primarily defensive back. And like, maybe he starts off kind of slow and he's playing more defense and he slowly starts picking up on offense. Like it only takes a couple of big plays and a couple of nice games for people to all of a sudden overreact and freak out. Like we've seen it time and time again. This seems like during the season, there's a new wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2, like every week there was. So it's just like, there'll be sell opportunities.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it will depend, obviously, where some of the other wide receivers go and some of the running backs. But, like, you never know. Like, if Amari and Hampton and Trevion Henderson both go, like, day 2, right, in the second or third round, and people are kind of, like, worried about, well, I don't know how good they're going to be, or if they land on a place that already has a running back and it's like a 1A, 1B situation. Yeah. Travis Hunter could go anywhere from 104 to 108. And honestly, I wouldn't fault anybody.
Yeah. Because there's a chance that like wherever you take him, it was too low. And there's also a chance where it was like, well, shoot, he's like 95% defense now, and he comes in on a handful, and it's like, well, crap, I kind of wasted a pick there. But
right.
I may on teams that I have multiple first, I may end up just going with one of them just because you have extra.
See what happens
and see what happens.
Yeah, just throwing darts. Yeah, definitely like that for sure. We wasted picks on full-time offensive players all the time, so why not
exactly
all the time. Yeah. So. I spent a lot of picks on JJ McCarthy, who didn't give me a single snap this year because he got hurt. So
Happens every year.
That's
It's
exactly
possible with every player.
for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you guys have anything else for the people tonight?
Just I think we're gonna do a mock for one of these shows coming up here soon.
Mm-hmm.
So
We'll do a mock soon.
I'll stay
We'll
awake
keep-
for it this time.
Perfect. I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, no, we're getting closer. I think so we're in February now. The NFL Combine is at the end of the month, which is super exciting.
Yeah.
So we'll continue hitting some prospect previews. We'll do a mock draft here soon. It's a great time of year. I love it. I love talking about prospects. I
Definitely.
love
And
NFL mocks. And,
like I said about mocks, it's so fun to do. Like I've been doing it almost every day, every other day, and it's like crazy to see. Like one riser right now is Devin Neal. He like beginning of of January or like middle of January when I was doing some mocks, he was going like beginning of the third. He's coming off the board sometimes early second.
Good.
202, 203, 204. People are starting to know about him, and it's just fun
The
to
real
watch.
ones have known, but
yeah, the running backs are deep. The running backs are deep. I'll tell you that much.
Deep river.
How deep? So deep.
We have a lake called Deep Lake around here.
Do you?
They dug really deep to get that name.
They did. I bet it took them a while to come up with that one.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, you ready to get out of here?
Yeah, let's go. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Peace out.
See you.